Well, now, hello there, dear listeners. Welcome to the Starborne Awakening Library. I'm Ella. Tonight's story is The Bridge Builder. In a quiet valley divided by a wide river stood an old wooden bridge. For generations, it had connected two villages. Children crossed it to visit friends. Farmers carried baskets across it each morning. Families gathered there at sunset to watch the river below. The bridge had become so familiar that most people no longer noticed it, until one winter storm washed it away. The river still flowed, the villages still stood, but something invisible had changed. People on one side waved from a distance. The people on the other side waved back. Yet fewer visits were made. Conversations became shorter. Celebrations became smaller. Slowly, the distance between the villages grew larger than the river itself. One morning, an elderly carpenter arrived carrying nothing more than a toolbox and a bundle of weathered timber. He quietly began building a new bridge. Day after day, board by board, beam by beam. Many people stopped to watch. One young man finally asked, "Why are you working so hard?" "The river isn't going anywhere." The carpenter smiled. "Exactly." The young man frowned. "But people have learned to live without the bridge." The old carpenter rested his hammer. "Have they?" "They've learned to live apart." "That isn't quite the same thing." The young man returned each day. As the bridge slowly took shape, he noticed something unexpected. People from both villages began coming to help. Some carried wood, some brought food, some simply offered encouragement. Long before the bridge was finished, the people had already begun finding one another again. One afternoon, the young man asked, "What made everyone come back?" The carpenter looked at the unfinished bridge. "I don't think they were waiting for the bridge. I think they were waiting for someone to begin." The young man thought about those words for a long time. When two people drift apart, he asked quietly, "Who should build the bridge?" The carpenter smiled. "The one who first remembers that the other person is human." The hammer rested in his hands. Building a bridge is rarely about proving who was right. It is about deciding that the relationship is worth crossing for. Weeks later, the final board was laid. The two villages gathered as the sun slipped toward the horizon. Children were the first to run across. Laughter echoed over the water once again. Old friends embraced. Families reunited. The bridge had restored more than a crossing. It had restored connection. As evening settled across the valley, the young man stood beside the carpenter. "I used to think bridges connected places." The carpenter smiled. "They do, but the most important bridges," he looked toward the families laughing together, "connect hearts." Perhaps our lives are filled with rivers we never intended to create. A misunderstanding, a harsh word, a disappointment, a season of silence. Sometimes we wait for the other person to build the first bridge. We wait for the perfect apology, the perfect moment, the perfect certainty. Yet perhaps healing often begins much more quietly, with one kind word, one act of courage, one willingness to take the first step across. Every bridge begins the same way, not with the final crossing, but with the first plank. Perhaps love grows in exactly the same way, one small act of connection at a time. Thank you for listening. This is Ella inviting you to tune in again. Until next time, be gentle with your heart.